Konnichiwa, minasan. O genki desu ka? Welcome to my channel. Let's learn Japanese with Eric. If you would like to learn Japanese for work, travel, or simply personal interest, please subscribe to my channel and watch the videos in chronological order. All lessons are written in both English and Japanese, so if you read Japanese, you can follow along reading the hiragana alphabet. If you haven't learned the hiragana yet, you can learn them all in one afternoon by going through lessons 1, 2, and 3. Otherwise, you're perfectly fine following along using the English transliteration. So let's begin. Hajimemashou. Now that you've learned all about adjectives or keiyoshi in the past 2 lessons, it's time to learn how to use them to compare 2 things and 3 or more things. To compare 2 things, such as when you make sentences like N1 is more so-and-so than N2, we use the formula N2 yori, where N2 is the loser of the comparison and yori is the particle you use to denote such. Then you mention N1 no ho, where N1 is the winner of the comparison. No ho literally means the way of, so the way of the winner. It is optional and you don't have to say no ho. Then you follow it with the particle ga, which is the subject particle, indicating that N1 is the subject being talked about. Then we follow that with the adjective. Then we close with the verb desu. The whole sentence is N2 yori, N1 no ho ga, then the adjective desu. For example, to say that Canada is colder than Japan, in this statement, the winner of this comparison is Canada and the loser is Japan, because Canada is colder than Japan. So we start off with the loser, Nihon yori, then the winner, Kanada no ho, or just Canada. Then follow it with the subject particle ga. Then the adjective, which is samui. Then close with the verb desu. Nihon yori Kanada no ho ga samui desu. Nihon yori Kanada no ho ga samui desu. Feel free to repeat after me each time I speak in Japanese, so you can get some practice. Another example, the sentence, sushi is more delicious than tempura. In this statement, the winner is sushi and the loser is tempura. So we start with the loser, tempura yori. Then the winner is sushi no ho, or sushi. Then the particle ga. Then the adjective oishii, closing with the verb desu. Tempura yori sushi no ho ga oishii desu. Or tempura yori sushi ga oishii desu. Another example, Tokyo is more expensive than Toronto. Tokyo is the winner, Toronto is the loser. The Japanese word for expensive is takai. Takai. We start with the loser, Toronto yori. Toronto yori. Then the winner, Tokyo no ho. Tokyo no ho. Then the particle ga. Then the adjective takai. And close with the verb desu. Toronto yori Tokyo no ho ga takai desu. Toronto yori Tokyo no ho ga takai desu. Or Toronto yori Tokyo ga takai desu. The sentence, Marie is more beautiful than Nina. Beautiful is kirei. So the sentence becomes, Nina yori Marie no ho ga kirei desu. Nina yori Marie no ho ga kirei desu. Or Nina yori Marie ga kirei desu. The sentence, the countryside is quieter than the city. Countryside is inaka. Inaka. City is machi. Machi. And quiet is shizuka, shizuka. So the sentence becomes 町より田舎の方が静かです。町より田舎の方が静かです。or 町より田舎が静かです。Now, how do you ask between two things? Which one is so and so, N1 or N2? In Japanese, the formula for this is N1 と N2 とどちらが then say the adjective, then ですか? The particle to means and どちら means which one. N1 と N2 とどちらが何々ですか? Let's look at some examples. The sentence, which one is faster, the bus or the train? Bus in Japanese is basu. Train is densha. And the adjective fast is hayai. In Japanese, the sentence translates to バスと電車とどちらが早いですか? バスと電車とどちらが早いですか? We use the subject particle ga because we want a specific answer. Is it the bus or the train? Of course, the train is faster than the bus. And in Japanese, we say バスより電車の方が早いです。バスより電車の方が早いです。or バスより電車が早いです。Another example, the sentence, between a movie and shopping, which is more interesting? Movie is 映画、映画。Shopping is 買い物、買い物。And interesting is 面白い、面白い。Putting all these together, in Japanese, we say 映画と買い物とどちらが面白いですか? 映画と買い物とどちらが面白いですか? Let's say shopping or 買い物 is more interesting than a movie. So in Japanese, we say 映画より買い物の方が面白いです。映画より買い物の方が面白いです。or 映画より買い物が面白いです。Now, the Japanese word for the same is onaji, onaji. To say they are the same, we say 同じです、同じです。And to say they are about the same, we say 同じぐらいです、同じぐらいです。The word ぐらい means approximately or about. Let's practice using this. The sentence, which is more expensive, the red bag or the blue shoes? Expensive is 高い、高い。Red bag is 赤いカバン、赤いカバン。And blue shoes is 青い靴、青い靴。In Japanese, we say 赤いカバンと青い靴とどちらが高いですか? 赤いカバンと青い靴とどちらが高いですか? To say they are about the same, we say 同じぐらいです、同じぐらいです。To say more specifically that the red bag is about as expensive as the blue shoes, in Japanese we say 赤いカバンは. Now we use the particle wa because we're making a general statement here. 青い靴と means compared with the red bag, 同じぐらい高いです means about the same as expensive. 赤いカバンは青い靴と同じぐらい高いです。赤いカバンは青い靴と同じぐらい高いです。Another example, the sentence, who is more beautiful, Miss Tanaka or Miss Ikeda? Beautiful is kirei. In Japanese, we ask, 田中さんと池田さんとどちらがきれいですか? 田中さんと池田さんとどちらがきれいですか? To say they're about the same, we say 同じぐらいです。同じぐらいです。And to declare that Miss Tanaka is about as beautiful as Miss Ikeda, in Japanese we say, 田中さんは池田さんと同じぐらい綺麗です。田中さんは池田さんと同じぐらい綺麗です。To say not to the extent as, we use the adverb hodo, which means to the extent, and then we pair that with the negative conjugation of the adjective to come up with nani nani hodo nani nani kunai, or nani nani hodo nani nani janai, depending if it's an e adjective or a na adjective. Let's look at some examples. The sentence, Japan is not as cold as Canada. Cold is samui, and to say not cold, its negative conjugation is samukunai. So in Japanese, the whole sentence would be Nihon wa Kanada hodo, or to the extent of Canada, samukunai desu, not cold. So Japan is not as cold as Canada. Nihon wa Kanada hodo samukunai desu. Nihon wa Kanada hodo samukunai desu. Another example, the bus is not as convenient as the subway. Subway is chikatetsu, chikatetsu, and convenient is benrina, benrina. It is a na adjective, so its negative conjugation, meaning not convenient, is benri janai, benri janai. So putting it all together, in Japanese we say, basu wa chikatetsu hodo benri janai desu. バスは地下鉄ほど便利じゃないです。Another example, Japanese is not as difficult as French. Japanese language is Nihongo. French language is Fransgo. The adjective difficult is 難しい, and its negative conjugation, meaning not difficult, is 難しくない. The whole sense in Japanese is 日本語はフランス語ほど難しくないです。日本語はフランス語ほど難しくないです。Next example, I don't like apples as much as strawberries. Now, if you remember our previous lesson on likes and dislikes, we use the adjective sukina, meaning likable, to express this. So we can rephrase the sentence to, apples are not as likable as strawberries. Likable is sukina, a na adjective. Its negative conjugation, meaning not likable, is suki janai. Apples is ringo, and strawberries is ichigo. Putting them all together, we say in Japanese, ringo wa ichigo hodo suki janai desu. Ringo wa ichigo hodo suki janai desu. Now, to say that something is the best when we compare three or more things, we use the qualifier ichiban, meaning number one. We use ichiban plus the adjective. For example, to say fastest, that would be ichiban hayai. The most beautiful, ichiban kirei. The most expensive, ichiban takai. And the most skillful, ichiban jouzu. And so on. For example, the sentence, Russia is the biggest country. The adjective big is oki, oki, and country is kuni, kuni. To say biggest, that would be ichiban oki. And to say the sentence in Japanese, that would be Russia ga ichiban oki kuni desu. Russia ga ichiban oki kuni desu. We use the particle ga because we're stating a specific fact that Russia and no other country is the biggest. Next example, summer is the hottest season. Summer is natsu. Season is kisetsu. The adjective hot is atsui. So to say the hottest, that would be ichiban atsui. Putting it all together, we say natsu ga 一番暑い季節です。夏が一番暑い季節です。Another example, Bill Gates is the richest man. Man is hito, and rich is kanemochi na, which is a na adjective. To say richest, that would be ichiban kanemochi. Putting them together, the Japanese sentence would be Bill Gates が一番金持ちな人です。Bill Gates が一番金持ちな人です。Note that we say 金持ちな人 because 金持ち is a na adjective, so it needs the na before the noun hito. It's often common to mention the domain when comparing three or more things. To indicate the domain, in Japanese we say the name of the domain followed by no naka de, which means within the domain of nani nani. We will look at some examples in the next few slides. Consider the sense, of all the countries, Russia is the biggest. The domain here is of all the countries. Country in Japanese is Kuni. So to indicate the domain, you say Kuni no naka de. And then you follow with the regular sense. Russia is the biggest, which in Japanese is Roshia ga ichiban ookii desu. So the whole sentence is Kuni no naka de Roshia ga ichiban ookii desu. Kuni no naka de Roshia ga ichiban ookii desu. Another example, of all the seasons, winter is the coldest. In this sense, the domain here is seasons, which in Japanese is kisetsu. Winter is fuyu, and cold is samui. Putting them all together, we say the domain first, kisetsu no naka de, and then the rest of the sentence. Fuyu ga ichiban samui desu. Winter is the coldest. So the whole sentence would be, kisetsu no naka de fuyu ga ichiban samui desu. Kisetsu no naka de fuyu ga ichiban samui desu. Now to phrase questions that compare three or more things, such as of all the nani nani, what is the most nani nani? In Japanese we say the domain nani nani no naka de, then the interrogative pronoun nani, then the particle ga, then the adjective expressed as ichiban nani nani, and then desu ka. Now the interrogative nani can change to another interrogative pronoun depending on what the question is. If the question is asking for a person, then it changes to dare. If it's asking for time, we use itsu, which means when, or some other interrogative expression of time, such as nanji or nanyobi. And if it's a place that's being asked for, then we use the interrogative pronoun doko, meaning where. Let's look at some examples. Consider the sense, of all the cars, what is the most expensive? Our domain here is cars or kuruma. Expensive in Japanese is takai. We use the interrogative pronoun nani because we're asking for what. To put them all together, we say, kuruma no naka de nani ga ichiban takai desu ka? Kuruma no naka de nani ga ichiban takai desu ka? And for example, to say that of all the cars, the Rolls-Royce is the most expensive, in Japanese we say, kuruma no naka de Rolls-Royce ga ichiban takai desu. Kuruma no naka de Rolls-Royce ga ichiban takai desu. Next example, in all the year, when is the hottest? Our domain here is the year or 1 year or ichinen. Hot is atsui, and we use the interrogative pronoun itsu, which means when. Putting them all together, we say, ichinen no naka de itsu ga ichiban atsui desu ka? Ichinen no naka de itsu ga ichiban atsui desu ka? The question can be asking for the season or month of the year. It's not very specific, as itsu or when sounds general. Let's say the listener chooses to answer using month of the year. So we have this sentence. In all the year, August is the hottest. In Japanese, we say, 一年の中で8月が一番暑いです。一年の中で8月が一番暑いです。Sometimes instead of a domain, we need to say what the choices are when comparing 3 or more things. For example, we could say of choices 1, 2, 3, etc. What is the most nani nani nani? In Japanese, that would be N1 to, N2 to, N3 to, etc. We separate each choice with the particle to, except for the last one. Then we close the choices with the usual domain identifier no naka de. Then we continue with nani ga ichiban, what is number 1, then say the adjective and close with desu ka. And again the interrogative nani, which means what, could change to some other interrogative pronoun depending on what you're asking for. Let's look at some examples. The sentence of sushi, donburi, and ramen, which is the most delicious? In Japanese, we don't say which, but we use the interrogative pronoun what or nani. Delicious is oishii. Putting them together, we say sushi to donburi to ramen no naka de nani ga ichiban oishii desu ka? Sushi to donburi to ramen no naka de nani ga ichiban oishii desu ka? Let's say of the 3, sushi is the most delicious. In Japanese, we say sushi to donburi to ramen no naka de sushi ga ichiban oishii desu. Sushi to donburi to ramen no naka de sushi ga ichiban oishii desu. In answering questions like these, you can skip saying the domain or the choices and go straight to the answer because it's obvious, and simply say sushi ga ichiban oishii desu. Sushi ga ichiban oishii desu. Next example. Who is the tallest? Jiro, Ken, or Taro? We phrase the English sentence differently, but the Japanese sentence pattern remains the same. Tall in height is se ga takai. Se ga takai. And now our interrogative pronoun changes to dare, which means who. Putting them all together, we say Jiro-kun to Ken-kun to Taro-kun no naka de dare ga ichiban se ga takai desu ka? Jiro-kun to Ken-kun to Taro-kun no naka de dare ga ichiban se ga takai desu ka? Let's say Ken is the tallest of the 3. We can also modify our answer to rephrase the domain this way. 3人の中で Ken-kunが一番背が高いです。3人の中で Ken-kunが一番背が高いです。So instead of saying each one's names, we just say 3人の中で, which means of the 3 people. Or you can skip saying the domain altogether and just say Ken-kunが一番背が高いです。Next example. Of Tokyo, Kyoto, and Nara, which is the oldest? The Japanese word for old is furui. The interrogative in English is which, but in Japanese we use the interrogative pronoun doko, meaning where, because the choices are all places. Putting them together, we say Tokyo to Kyoto to Nara no naka de doko ga ichiban furui desu ka? Tokyo to Kyoto to Nara no naka de doko ga ichiban furui desu ka? Of course, of the 3 cities, Nara is the oldest. So in our answer, we say Tokyo to Kyoto to Nara no naka de Nara ga ichiban furui desu. Tokyo to Kyoto to 奈良の中で奈良が一番古いです。You can also skip saying the choices and go straight to the answer. 奈良が一番古いです。Our last example, the sentence, what day of the week is the busiest? We have a domain here which is 1 week or 1週間. Busy in Japanese is 忙しい. And our interrogative is what day or 何曜日. Putting them all together and still following the pattern, we say 1週間の中で何曜日が一番忙しいですか? 1週間の中で何曜日が一番忙しいですか? Let's say in the week that Mondays are the busiest. In Japanese, we say 1週間の中で月曜日が一番忙しいです。1週間の中で月曜日が一番忙しいです。Or skip saying the domain and just say 月曜日が一番忙しいです。To recap, in this lesson you learned how to compare two things. To say A is more 何々 than B. In Japanese, that's B より A の方が何々です。You also learned how to say A is as 何々 as B. In Japanese, you'd say A は B と同じぐらい何々です。And you also learned to say that A is not as 何々 as B. In Japanese, you'd say A は B ほど. Then use the negative conjugation of the adjective and then end with des. And you learned how to compare 3 or more things, how to express the superlative using ichiban plus the adjective. You also learned how to express domains using nani-nani no naka de, or simply enumerating the choices using the particle to, such as n1 to, n2 to, n3 to, and etc. No naka de. And this ends our lesson on how to compare things using adjectives. I hope you had a wonderful time and learned lots of things. I look forward to having you join me in the next video. If you're serious about becoming fluent in Japanese, it's important to practice daily, learn grammar, and build up vocabulary. My whole course is designed to give you a strong basic foundation in the Japanese language that you can build solidly on. So please click like, share, or subscribe and watch the next video in the series. 日本語の勉強に頑張ってください。じゃあまたね。